Daddy! Daddy! The 5-year-old boy broke free from his mother's hand and ran straight across our elegantly decorated living room, past the champagne glasses and shocked faces of 200 guests, throwing his tiny arms around my husband's legs. The room fell dead silent. You could hear a pin drop as Michael's champagne glass slipped from his frozen fingers and shattered on our hardwood floor. In that moment, I felt like I was drowning. My vision tunneled, my knees went weak, and I gripped the back of a chair to keep from collapsing. Because this wasn't just any child calling my husband Daddy at our annual charity gala. This was the child my husband had been secretly supporting with the $120,000 I thought was going to help underprivileged kids. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because what happened next will shock you to your core. But let me back up and tell you how I went from being the proud wife of Denver's most generous philanthropist to orchestrating the most devastating dinner party of my life. For 7 years, I bragged about Michael to everyone, at book club meetings, PTA gatherings, even grocery store checkout lines. I couldn't help but gush about my husband's generosity. He donates $120,000 every year to help underprivileged children, I'd say proudly, watching other wives' faces light up with admiration. Our friends called him Saint Michael. His law firm partners nominated him for humanitarian awards. The local newspaper featured him in their Heroes Among Us section, complete with a photo of him holding a giant check made out to Children's Hope Foundation. I felt like the luckiest woman in Colorado. While other wives complained about their husbands spending money on golf trips or expensive watches, mine was changing lives. Every month, like clockwork, $10,000 would disappear from our joint account with the memo, Charity, Children's Hope Foundation. Our own kids, Emma and Jake, looked up to their father like he was Superman. Daddy helps kids who don't have toys like us, 8-year-old Emma would tell her classmates. I'd beam with pride every time. Michael would come home from work, loosen his tie, and tell us stories about the thank you letters he received. There's this little girl named Sophie who got to go to summer camp because of our donation, he'd say, his voice filled with emotion. And Tommy, remember I told you about Tommy? He got the surgery he needed. I never questioned it. Why would I? We were financially comfortable, and Michael's heart seemed as big as his paycheck. Those evenings, when putting the kids to bed, Emma would often ask, Mommy, is Daddy the best person in the whole world? I'd smile and say, Sweetheart, your father is a special man. He always thinks about people less fortunate than us. Jake, though only 6, would proudly tell his friends, My daddy gives lots of money to poor kids. With such pride, other parents would always compliment me, saying how lucky I was. Everything changed on a rainy October afternoon while I was organizing our tax documents. Our accountant had requested bank statements dating back 3 years for our joint filing. As I scrolled through transactions on our online banking, my finger accidentally clicked on one of those monthly charity transfers. Instead of seeing Children's Hope Foundation as the recipient, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Transfer to Madison Wright, personal account. Madison Wright. I'd never heard that name before. My hands started shaking as I clicked on more charity transactions. Every single one, all $360,000 over the past 3 years, had gone to Madison Wright's personal checking account. Not a single penny had reached any charity. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. There had to be a mistake. Maybe Madison Wright worked for the foundation. Maybe she was their financial coordinator. But deep in my gut, I knew something was terribly wrong. Madison Wright. Madison. The name kept echoing in my mind as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. If you're finding this story as shocking as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible real-life stories. That night, after Michael fell asleep, I became a detective in my own home. I started by Googling Children's Hope Foundation Denver. The organization existed, but their website showed they received donations primarily through their own online portal, not personal bank transfers. I found their phone number and called the next morning, my heart pounding. Hi, I'm calling to verify some donation records for my husband, Michael Patterson, I told the receptionist. I'm sorry, ma'am, but we don't show any donations from a Michael Patterson in our system. came the devastating reply. My world started crumbling. But I didn't stop there. I called 3 other charities Michael had mentioned in his stories: Denver Children's Education Fund, Rocky Mountain Community Health Center, Colorado School Meal Program. Every call yielded the same result. They'd never heard of Michael Patterson. I felt like the entire world was spinning around me. How could he maintain such an elaborate lie for 7 years? How could I have been so blind? I searched through Michael's desk when he left for work. Hidden behind his law books, I found a small wooden box I'd never seen before. Inside were thank you cards, supposedly from children he'd helped, but the handwriting looked oddly mature, and they were all signed with generic names: Love, Annie, Thank you, Bobby, You're my hero, Katie. They were all fake. But there was something that shocked me even more. The box also contained a small USB drive. When I plugged it into my laptop, it held hundreds of photos. Pictures of Michael with a beautiful blonde woman, photos of them vacationing at the beach. I remembered that vacation. Michael said he had to go on a business trip to Las Vegas. Pictures of them at a hospital ultrasound. Photos of Michael cutting birthday cake for a little boy who had the exact same eyes as him. There was a separate folder named Our Home. Inside were dozens of photos of a house I'd never seen. Michael cooking in that kitchen, Michael watching TV on that sofa, Michael reading bedtime stories to the boy on that bed. He had an entire other life, another family, another home. Then I found the receipt from a Denver flower shop, $200 for roses delivered to an address on Cherry Creek Drive. The delivery date was our wedding anniversary. The same day Michael told me he had to work late at the office. But there was something else. A receipt from a jewelry store, a $5,000 diamond ring. Purchase date, June 23rd, Danny's birthday, as I later discovered from a birthday card in the box. Michael wasn't just lying about charity donations. He was maintaining an entire second family with our money. The next Saturday, while Michael took the kids to their soccer games, I drove to Cherry Creek Drive. It was an upscale neighborhood about 20 minutes from our house, filled with charming townhomes and perfect landscaping. I found the address from the flower receipt, 2847 Cherry Creek Drive, a beautiful 2-story home with a red front door and a tire swing in the front yard. In the driveway sat a silver Honda Accord, the same car I'd seen Michael talking to a woman beside after Jake's last baseball game. At the time, he'd said she was a client's wife. I parked across the street, my heart racing. Through the large front window, I could see inside the living room. And what I saw nearly made me vomit. There were photos everywhere, photos of Michael, Michael holding a baby, Michael at a birthday party with a little boy who looked exactly like him, Michael in a hospital room, holding hands with a beautiful blonde woman who had to be Madison Wright. This wasn't just an affair. This was a whole other family. But there was something that shocked me even more. On the wall hung a wedding photo. Michael in a navy blue suit, Madison in a simple white dress. They had gotten married, or at least pretended to. I took pictures of everything I could through the car window. Then I noticed something in the mailbox. I looked around, saw no one, so quickly grabbed a few letters to examine. Michael and Madison Patterson. That was the name on the electric bill. Water bill. The Patterson family. There was even mail from the school addressed to Parents of Danny Patterson. He had created an entire fake identity. In the eyes of this boy and the world around this house, Michael was Michael Patterson, Madison's husband and Danny's father. As I sat there in shock, a little boy ran to the window. He had Michael's green eyes, Michael's dimpled smile, Michael's unruly cowlick that never stayed down no matter how much gel you used. The boy was probably about 5 years old. Michael and I had been married for 7 years. The timeline was devastating. He'd been cheating almost since we got married. The boy looked outside and waved at me innocently. I felt my heart breaking. This was an innocent child, oblivious to the complex adult world, unaware that his father was living a double life. That evening, I confronted Michael as calmly as I could manage. "Honey, I was organizing our tax documents and noticed something strange about our charity donations," I said over dinner, watching his face carefully. He didn't even flinch. "What kind of strange?" he asked, cutting his steak with steady hands. "They're not going to Children's Hope Foundation. They're going to someone named Madison Wright." For just a split second, I saw panic flash across his eyes, but then he recovered with the skill of a seasoned lawyer. "Oh, Madison. She's the foundation's new financial coordinator. They updated their payment processing system last year. Everything goes through her first for verification." The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly that if I hadn't seen that house, those photos, that little boy, I might have believed him. "That's interesting," I said, forcing myself to smile. "I'd love to meet her sometime. Maybe we could have her over for dinner?" "She's very busy," Michael said quickly. "Travels a lot for work, never really available for social calls." Each lie felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. "You know what?" I continued, my voice still light. "I think I should visit her myself. I have her address from the bank statements." This time, Michael couldn't hide his panic. "You don't need to do that. I'll contact her and—" "Cherry Creek Drive, right?" I interrupted. "That beautiful red house?" Michael set down his knife, his face going pale. Finally, the mask had slipped. I spent the next 3 weeks in a strange state of calm fury. During the day, I played the perfect wife, packing Michael's lunches, helping with homework, attending school events. But every night, after everyone was asleep, I planned. I began collecting evidence systematically. I photographed all bank statements from the past 5 years. I printed phone records showing hundreds of calls to Madison. I copied every email and text message I could find. One night, I found Michael's second laptop hidden in the guest bedroom closet. The password was Danny 2019, the boy's birth year. Inside was an entire secret life. Emails with Madison about planning family vacations, images from trips I thought Michael took alone for business. There were even financial plans for his second family, private school tuition for Danny, health insurance, college fund. He had planned everything. This wasn't just an affair. This was a complete parallel life. But what made me angriest wasn't the betrayal. It was how he used the charity image as a cover. In one email to Madison, he wrote, "You don't need to worry about money. I tell Emily we're donating to charity. She's even proud of it. It's perfect." He had turned my kindness and pride into tools for his deception. Our annual charity gala was coming up in 3 weeks. For the past 5 years, we'd hosted it at our house, inviting everyone important in Michael's professional and social circles, partners from his law firm, our neighbors, kids' teachers, church friends, about 200 people total. This year's theme was supposed to be Heroes for Children. How sickeningly perfect. I called the caterer, florist, and rental company, confirming everything was still on schedule. I even ordered an extra table for special guests. Then I made the most important call. "Hi, is this Madison Wright?" I said when she answered. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Michael Patterson's wife, Emily. I have something very important to discuss with you about Michael and your son." The silence on the other end was deafening. "I know everything, Madison. About the house on Cherry Creek Drive, about you and Danny calling him husband and daddy, about all the money he said was for charity actually going to you." I heard her sharp intake of breath. "I don't want to hurt you or Danny," I continued, my voice gentle but firm. "But I need you to understand that you've been deceived, just like me. Michael has been lying to both of us." I don't know," Madison stammered. "Did you know he's still married to me? Did you know he comes home to me and our 2 children every night? Did you know he's never mentioned divorcing me?" The silence stretched on. "This Sunday, we're having a charity gala at our house. I think it's time all the truth came out in front of everyone. Would you like Danny to meet the other children his daddy talks about?" I need to think." "I understand, but Madison, you need to know, both you and Danny deserve the truth, and I'm going to make sure we both get it." The night of our charity gala, our house looked absolutely beautiful. Twinkling lights strung across the patio, elegant floral arrangements on every table, servers passing around champagne and hors d'oeuvres. All our guests arrived in their finest attire, ready to celebrate my generous husband. Michael worked the room like the politician he'd always wanted to be, shaking hands and accepting praise for his charitable heart. "We're just so blessed to be able to help children in need," he kept saying, his arm around my waist. I had prepared a special speech for the evening. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said into the microphone, "we're here today to honor heroes for children. But before we conclude, I want to introduce you to some very special children that my husband has helped over the years." At exactly 8 p.m., as I'd planned, the doorbell rang. "Michael, honey, could you get that?" I called sweetly from across the room. "I think our special guests have arrived." Michael walked in the front door, champagne glass in hand, expecting to greet late-arriving friends. Instead, he found Madison Wright standing on our doorstep, holding the hand of a little boy in a navy blue suit. I watched Michael's face drain of all color as Madison and little Danny, that was his name, I'd learned, stepped into our foyer. The conversation in the room gradually died as people noticed the beautiful woman and adorable child who clearly didn't belong to any of the familiar families. Danny looked around the crowded room with wide eyes until he spotted Michael. Then his whole face lit up with pure joy. "Daddy!" he shouted, breaking free from his mother's hand and running straight across the room. The room went completely silent. You could hear the soft jazz music playing in the background, the gentle clink of champagne glasses freezing mid-sip, the collective intake of breath from 200 people watching a 5-year-old boy throw his arms around my husband. "Daddy, Mommy said you wanted us to come to your party," Danny said loudly, his voice carrying across our now silent living room. Michael stood frozen, his champagne glass slipping from his fingers and shattering on our hardwood floor. I stepped forward, my voice calm and clear enough for everyone to hear. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Madison Wright and her son Danny. For the past 5 years, Michael has been sending them $120,000 annually, money he told me was going to charity to help underprivileged children." The gasps and murmurs started rippling through the crowd. "Turns out," I continued, my voice growing stronger, "Michael wasn't lying about helping a child in need. He just forgot to mention that the child was his own son, born from his affair with Madison." Madison looked mortified, clearly not understanding what she'd walked into. Danny, oblivious to the adult drama, was still hugging his daddy and chattering about his new school shoes. Michael's law partner, James, stepped forward. "Emily, what are you saying?" "But there's something else," I continued, holding up a stack of printed emails. "These are emails from Michael to Madison, where he wrote, 'You don't need to worry about money. I tell Emily we're donating to charity. She's even proud of it. It's perfect.'" My voice trembled with emotion. He turned my kindness, my pride, into tools to cover his betrayal. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared and handed copies to James, to our pastor, and to Michael's parents. Bank records showing every transfer. Photos from Madison's house showing Michael at birthday parties, Christmas mornings, and in the hospital when Danny was born. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts between them. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Michael's mother started crying. His father looked like he wanted to punch someone. "Michael," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos, "would you like to tell everyone how you've been betraying not just me and our children, but every real charity that desperately needs funding? How you've been using the generosity people expected from you as a cover for your double life?" For the first time in our marriage, Michael Patterson, the smooth-talking lawyer who always had an answer, was completely speechless. But I wasn't finished. "And here," I said, holding up a check, "is a real $120,000 donation I just made to Children's Hope Foundation, with my own money, because some children really do need help, unlike your fake charity." The room exploded in chaos. Some people applauded. Others shook their heads in amazement. Michael still stood there, completely defeated. The party ended quickly after that. Guests filed out in stunned silence, many stopping to squeeze my hand or whisper words of support. Madison gathered up Danny and left without saying a word, tears streaming down her face. Michael disappeared into his study and didn't come out for hours. The next morning, local news stations were calling. Apparently, someone at the party had live-streamed the revelation, and it was going viral on social media. "Denver lawyer's charity scam exposed at dinner party" was trending. My phone rang constantly. Reporters wanted interviews. Neighbors wanted to know the truth. Even strangers called to share similar stories of their own. A woman named Linda from California called and shared, My husband did the same thing. He said he was donating to cancer research, but he was actually paying gambling debts. It took me 3 years to find out. A man from Texas. My wife said she was helping her elderly mother, but she was actually supporting her lover. Thank you for giving me the courage to tell my family the truth. I realized my story wasn't just about personal betrayal. It represented thousands of others living in similar lies. Michael's law firm asked him to take a leave of absence within 48 hours. 3 of his biggest clients dropped him by the end of the week. The Colorado Bar Association opened an ethics investigation. But there were other consequences I hadn't expected. Emma and Jake started asking difficult questions. "Mommy, why did Daddy lie about helping children?" Emma asked, her big eyes full of confusion. "Does Daddy love Danny more than us?" Jake whispered, his voice trembling. These questions hurt more than the betrayal itself. How could I explain a world that even I didn't understand? I decided to tell the truth. "Sweethearts, Daddy made very bad choices. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love you. It means he made very big mistakes." "What about Danny?" Emma asked. "Is it his fault?" "No, sweetheart. Danny is an innocent little boy, just like you and Jake. None of this is his fault." But the most satisfying part? I used our savings, money that was actually mine from my grandmother's inheritance, to make a real $120,000 donation to Children's Hope Foundation. They sent me a beautiful thank you letter, signed by real children who would benefit from real help. The letter read, "Dear Emily, thanks to your generous donation, we were able to open 2 additional classrooms for 50 disadvantaged children. We can also provide free lunches for 100 children throughout the school year. This truly is a gift from an angel." Michael moved out the following week. The divorce proceedings revealed even more shocking details. My lawyer discovered that Michael had been using our joint credit cards to pay for Madison's rent, her car payments, even Danny's private school tuition, all disguised as business expenses or charity-related costs. The financial devastation was staggering. Beyond the $360,000 in fake charity donations, he had spent another $180,000 on his secret family over 5 years. Designer clothes for Madison, expensive toys for Danny, family vacations to Disneyland that he told me were work conferences. Our marriage counseling bills? Actually payments for Danny's pediatrician. During depositions, Madison broke down and revealed everything. She'd met Michael at a legal conference in Las Vegas when Danny was just a baby. She was a struggling single mother working as a paralegal, and Michael swooped in like a knight in shining armor. He told her I was cold and distant, that our marriage was over in all but name, and that he was only staying until the kids were older. She'd believed every word. He showed me pictures of this beautiful house, talked about how lonely he was. Madison testified through tears. He said you knew about us, and were okay with it as long as he was discreet. I thought I was part of some modern arrangement. The manipulation was breathtaking. Michael had convinced Madison that I was the villain in our story, a frigid wife who cared more about appearances than love. Meanwhile, he convinced me that he was a devoted family man whose only vice was being too generous with charity. But the most satisfying part? During our divorce proceedings, we learned that Madison had been asking him to leave me for years, but he kept promising he would when the time was right. She'd thought I knew about their relationship and had agreed to some kind of arrangement. When Michael's money dried up, legal fees, settlements, loss of income, Madison stopped returning his calls. Turns out, she wasn't interested in a broke, disgraced lawyer with 2 kids and an ex-wife he'd have to pay alimony to. The kids took it hard at first, but they're resilient. Emma, now 9, told me last week, "Mommy, I'm proud that you help real kids now, not fake ones like Daddy did." Jake, who's 11, asked me if Daddy was a bad person. I told him that good people sometimes make very bad choices, and those choices have consequences. We started family therapy to help them process everything. Dr. Rachel Stevens, our therapist, helped me realize that I'd been enabling Michael's behavior by never questioning his stories, never demanding to see actual charity receipts, never insisting on transparency in our finances. I kept our house, got a great settlement, and started working as a victims' rights advocate. Every month, I still donate to legitimate charities, but now I research them thoroughly first. I visit the organizations, meet the staff, see exactly where my money goes. Colorado Springs Children's Hospital now has a new wing funded partially by my real donations. The Denver Literacy Foundation has been able to purchase books for 3 underserved schools. The local food bank received enough funding to provide meals for 50 families for an entire year. These aren't just numbers on a bank statement. I've met the children whose lives have been changed. 7-year-old Marcus, who got his cleft palate surgery. Twin sisters Sophia and Isabella, who now have access to reading tutors. Mrs. Garcia, whose family of 5 no longer goes to bed hungry. Real impact, real change, real charity. Michael sent me a letter last month begging for another chance. He said he'd made a terrible mistake and wanted to rebuild our family. The letter was 12 pages long, filled with apologies and promises. He claimed he'd found Jesus, that he was in therapy, that he would do anything to win me back. I threw it away without finishing the first page. 3 weeks later, he showed up at Emma's soccer game. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, driving a beat-up Honda instead of his former BMW. He tried to talk to me, but I walked away. The other parents stared, whispering among themselves. Everyone in our community knew the story by then. "Emily, please," he called after me. "I miss my family. I miss you." I turned around and looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since that awful night. "Michael," I said calmly, "you never missed me. You missed having someone to fool." Because here's what I learned. I don't need a man who pretends to be generous while betraying the people who trust him most. I don't need someone who can lie to my face every single day for 5 years. And I definitely don't need someone who would steal from children in need, even fake ones, to cover up his infidelity. But more than that, I learned something about myself. For 7 years, I had defined my worth through Michael's perceived goodness. I was proud to be married to the generous lawyer, the charitable husband, the saint everyone admired. When his facade crumbled, I discovered something incredible. I didn't need his reputation to have value. I'm raising my children to understand that real integrity means doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. Not performing charity while secretly funding your affair. Not pretending to be someone you're not to win admiration. Emma asked me recently if I was sad that Daddy turned out to be a liar. I told her that I was sad he made those choices, but I wasn't sad about who I became because of them. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to our greatest strengths. The irony isn't lost on me. Michael spent 5 years pretending to help children while abandoning his responsibilities to his own kids. Meanwhile, I'm now genuinely changing young lives every single day through my advocacy work and real charitable giving. Last month, I received a handwritten thank you note from a 16-year-old girl whose college tuition I'd helped fund through a scholarship program. "Because of you, I'm going to be the first person in my family to graduate from college," she wrote. "Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." That letter sits framed on my desk now, next to photos of Emma and Jake. Real gratitude from a real person whose life has been genuinely impacted. No fake charity coordinator, no lies, no deception, just honest generosity creating actual change. These days, I sleep peacefully knowing that my donations actually reach the children they're meant to help. I've received dozens of real thank you letters, written in crayon by kids who got to go to summer camp, or eat dinner every night, or get the medical care they needed. Michael was right about one thing. There is nothing more rewarding than genuinely helping a child in need. He just never bothered to actually do it. Thank you for watching my story to the end. If you were in my shoes, would you have handled things differently? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and I love seeing how many people believe in real justice over fake charity. And if you want to hear more stories about people who chose truth over comfortable lies, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. Because sometimes the most shocking betrayals come from the people we trust most, and the strongest victories come from the courage to expose them. The boy Danny is doing well, by the way. I've been quietly sending his mother money for his education. Real money, to a real account, for a real child's future, because that's what actual charity looks like. Some heroes wear capes, others just tell the truth.